Welcome to the Uncaged Mindset Podcast, where we talk all things spiritual awakening and we interview the light workers who are out there radiating their light. But before I get to my first amazing guest today, please take a moment and smash that like button and subscribe. We're building a community of light and everyone is invited. Okay, I am so excited to introduce my very special guest today. He is an accredited meditation leader and sound therapist, specializing in elemental meditation, which is so cool and cosmic, by the way. I can't wait to talk about that. He is also a student of pre-Celtic Druidism and contemporary Celtic Shamanism. He currently works one-on-one with actors and performers, as well as leading intimate group sessions. In addition to his meditation practice, he is at the helm of the very epic 2023 Parapod Festival. Please welcome award-winning content creator and the host of Truth Be Told's Minuteman Report, the very talented and also very busy and very powerful manifester, my friend, Robert Hensley.
Hello. That's quite an intro.
Well, you've done quite a lot, and I didn't even scratch the surface.
I know. I guess it just doesn't. I hadn't thought about hearing it come out of someone's mouth that way. So yeah, it's a lot.
Well, spoken like someone who's doing a lot, spoken like someone who's out there doing the work, and taking
Right.
a moment to just contemplate on all that you're doing. So let's take a moment today and contemplate on that. You've got a lot going on, Robert. I'd like to start with the Parapod Festival because that is on the forefront of your mind. Actually, let me take a step back. Robert, I want to ask you about your journey, actually, and the story about how you stepped into your spiritual practice, what parts of spirituality resonate with you now that maybe resonated with you back then. And maybe the question really is, how did spirituality or energy or consciousness find you?
Well, I'm sure it found me with a chocolate bar. No, I grew up in the sticks, the backwoods of Pennsylvania, high in the Appalachians, and yeah, I mean, we didn't really grow up with a religion or a denomination, I should say. Everyone was pretty much like, you would ask them what their religion was, and they would say Protestant. And then it wasn't until I got to middle school and I realized that covers a large denomination, or group of denominations within the Christian church. But I've always kind of felt, I don't know, that my personal belief system or my personal connection to the universe was more important than putting labels on things and narrowing it down to just kind of one object or one person or one being. And I've always been very, I don't want to say drawn to, but I guess I've always kind of felt a connection to more to the natural world, nature. And again, because we didn't really have, there weren't a lot of resources, growing up, as far as like visits to the library or, God knows I'm part of that generation that grew up with the internet being just becoming a thing. So for a lot of my youth, like there wasn't just kind of like a jump on Google and check this out. So I never really knew what was available to me or what other people were practicing or how other people believed in things or any of that. And so I just always kind of had this very private, very personal kind of practice. It was my own thing. I didn't really talk about it unless asked about it. And it's still kind of that way. I mean, it's not really anyone else's business what you believe or how you worship or practice or any of that stuff. I think that it's it's between you and the universe. However, as far as like this part of the journey with meditation and sound therapy, and that all happened by I don't know, divine intervention, I guess. Um, I found myself at a place where I was feeling very low, and there are two paths, divergent and wood, right? And down one was despair and anger and wallowing in self-pity, and on the other was to connect with the energy that I knew that was in the universe and what I believed was there, and figure out what I could give back, or how I could move forward without um, you know going to the dark side, so to speak. And so, sound therapy was first. I was interested in sound therapy, so I found a class, and it was really cool. Loved the class so much. And then, started picking up and buying instruments, and I had, I have more flutes at the moment than I think, a Philharmonic. And and then I decided that I wanted to go into a master class and really kind of immerse myself into this practice. And in order for me to take the master class, I needed a prerequisite, which was I needed to have my certification as a meditation leader. So I had to take that class in order to get to the next class. And then I really had fun in the meditation class. And then I took the master class in that. And it just kind of kept building until I started taking, I started branching off and taking classes in, Celtic Shamanism and Celtic spirit animals, Incan spirit animals, just kind of building this repertoire that I had no idea where it was going to lead or what I was doing, but it felt good. And that to me told me that I was on a path that I was meant to be on, or that, not that I'm saying that everything that feels good is good, but it felt wholesome. It felt like the thing that I needed to do to bolster myself to get to the next thing.
Wow, Robert, that's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. And one thing that really stood out to me was this word instrument, and how like you were gravitating towards like the sound bowls and instruments, and you had flutes. And so much of a spiritual journey and awakening, and it sounds like for you, was fine-tuning that instrument within yourself to hear and receive like the voice of source energy, the voice of the unit, whatever you want to call it, at a very personal process for you, and allowing that voice to guide you to the next thing and the next thing.
Yes. Yeah. I think for me, I think that the meditation lead, like being a meditation leader or sound therapy, it appealed to my quote unquote bossy nature. It appealed to the director in me. And especially when I started thinking more, kind of learning more about elemental meditation and kind of the Celtic shaman tradition of journeys, meditation journeys, leading journeys. That to me felt it was like storytelling to me. So it was everything that I love about the film industry, about the entertainment industry, what I do in the industry. It just kind of clicked, it connected, that it was kind of like, that's what this is.
And I gotta, first of all, for anybody who doesn't know what shamanism is, what is that term is thrown around a lot. It's used a lot. What is okay, two questions: shamanism, and then also Celtic shamanism.
Yes. All right. So shamanism is, and again, you're right. It is a word that gets thrown around a lot. Um, Shamans are the learned ones, keepers of knowledge. They're usually in a tribe or in a circle or in a group. Sometimes they're seen as like the medicine man or the medicine person or the witch doctor or but usually they're the spiritual guide or conscience of the group. And they're the person that other people go to for guidance or for instruction. And, you know, in the kind of Celtic tradition, right? Because the Celts, you know, are very well known for their, a lot of people know them as being kind of the Irish. It's more than just Ireland. The Celts were kind of across Britain, Wales, Scotland, and actually started in Western Europe. It's very much about it's a very natural tradition. It's considered a heart tradition, meaning that they learn everything by heart. There's no written history. So what people know or practice now that has been practiced for generations, it's been passed down orally, like it's an oral tradition. You know, I know that, you know, within Druidism and kind of pre-Celtic practices, you know, people, you know, study their entire lives and they're still never kind of initiated it. You know, some people have been studying for 20 years before they finally have that kind of breakthrough moment. Celtic shamanism is really just about connecting to the natural world. And, you know, there are a lot of deities in Celtic shamanism or in just kind of Celtic practice. You know, there are 280 plus deities kind of recorded. Some of them are regional deities. Some of them are kind of overall deities. It's a lot to take in. You know, a lot of practitioners pick and choose to kind of follow one deity or one spirit animal or things that they kind of connect to within, just to simplify things. There's a, and I, you know, again, because I believe in, you know, personal connection, just because you read a book and you read a list of 280 plus deities does not mean that you have to create a journal and worship every single deity, or that you don't have to ascribe any of them. You know what I mean? Like you can just choose to go deity less. You know what I mean? And just take the rest of it.
I love that, Robert. First of all, thank you for saying that, because right now in this new age movement, and I think this is probably why I'm doing this podcast. I feel like I get a new download every week of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing or why this exists. But there's so much information out there. And when people are awakening and more people are awakening, which is a good thing, there's also this excitement that comes with it, right? And then they want to know everything and then they want to do everything. And I love that you're saying you actually don't have to do everything.
No, it's kind of like, you know, here's the thing, you know, when at one point in my life, you know, I tried the church thing. I tried like the traditional Christian church stuff. And I just always felt like there was, I don't know, a lot missing and a lot to be desired. And it's very much, it's very dogmatic, right? Like you go in and everybody has to believe the same thing and read the same thing, and nobody can kind of like question anything. It is this, and that's what it is, and not for me. And you know, to be honest, I feel that it's part of the reason. I think it's the reason why there's so much confusion in the world. as far as beliefs goes, just because people have lost the sense of having their own thoughts or their own connection to, the universe, the energy around us, to how we connect with the earth and nature, and how that connects to, a larger energy and all that, because, if you're constantly going to someone else and expecting them to speak on your behalf to something greater, that then speaks to something greater, that have you ever played the game Telephone? That
Yes.
I think that's why people's prayers don't get answered, right? Because by the time you pray to the Mother Mary, and the Mother Mary tells her son, and then the son tells his father, and then the father tells whatever, Lord only knows what got lost in translation. So it's kind of like, if you believe strongly enough in, or just openly enough, that you have a direct line to the universe, to the power in the universe, to that source energy of the universe, you have a direct line. You don't need anyone else to speak for you, right? And I feel like people get lost in this idea that somebody else has to be a mediator, because you might say the wrong thing. Like, if you believe that there is a God who is all-knowing and omnipresent, and who created all beings, right? Then or you should know in your heart of hearts, that every word that comes into your mind, that comes out of your mouth, was created by him, right? So how do you say the wrong thing if he's the one telling you to say it? You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like, I don't, I feel like there are people who are in times of despair, who want to yell and curse and put that energy into the universe. And sometimes it helps to get that out. Does it necessarily resonate with the universe? Absolutely. But it's all about the intention behind what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of difference between cursing for good and cursing to curse. You know what I mean? For bad. Yeah, I think that people get too caught up on this idea of good and evil, heaven and hell, God, no God, all that stuff, and I think that it muddles things.
Well, Robert, that is so true. And then that word confusion has been on my heart a lot lately, and in my mind, like in my conscious, that word confusion that you said, because yeah, there's a lot of confusion in the New Age movement and in the spiritual community, and people who are looking to get out of dogma are finding themselves back into dogma because they
Mhm.
don't yet trust their own instrument. Going back to that, it's, you have full access to this. Instead of taking your guitar strings to the tuner, you can actually learn to tune yourself. There is a
Well, and
path for that.
and who said that the way that it's tuned is wrong?
Ooh, Robert. Woo.
Right? I mean, come on. I mean, some of the most beautiful music that I've ever heard. Like, this may be before your time, and maybe before a lot of your listeners' times. But there was this great track that was performed by Tori Amos, where she hung all of these different things like off of strings, and they rested on the piano wires, so that when she played, it was completely discordant, right? It wasn't the piano the way that people expected it, because there was a dinner fork hanging against the string, and it altered the sound. There was a doll head hanging against the string. It altered the sound. And yet it was because of her intention, because of the way that she played and she sang, it became something unique and interesting. It wasn't wrong.
Oh, yes, yes. It's all about intention. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking of intention, and
Mm-hmm.
also speaking of, we'll say directing came up a little bit too. You guided me through a meditation, an elemental meditation,
I did.
um, very recently, which felt in alignment with what you just said right now, that there's no wrong way. It felt like the journey was a perfect, complete journey wherever it went. And I had not experienced anything as active as this. I do a lot of different meditations. This was very, very experiential. This ties into the Parapod Festival for sure, which we're going to talk about that. But you'll be teaching this element, you'll be guiding this this elemental meditation at the Parapod Festival on the weekend of April 1st,
Yes.
March 31st, April 1st. And can you speak a little bit about elemental meditation? Just explain how it works, what is it, why it works. And one thing that I loved, and this must be the director in you, but you set it up so perfectly and so clearly of things that I might experience, things that I might not experience, what other people have experienced, but again, making it like I'm not wrong. Once again, I'm not wrong for my journey being my own journey. Right. Yeah. But anyways, yeah.
I'll say that I'll say that part of it is probably more of the, from that time in the past when I worked as an esthetician in a salon, because when you're an esthetician or a massage therapist, because people are often covered or they're face down and they can't see what's about to happen, you have to kind of inform them so that there's not that jerk reaction. And so the same thing when you're going into any kind of meditation, if you're doing sound therapy, you kind of need to let people know what sounds they may hear throughout, or that there will be a build up to to something else. They may hear a gong. That way when the gong happens, they're not like brought out of the meditation, right? It's there. They've heard that it's going to be there. If they experience it, great, and if they completely miss it, that's fine too. So elemental meditation is very simply, it's just it's meditation that focuses on our connection to the natural world, right? We've all heard of like the four elements: earth, air, fire, water. Some people also work with space and consciousness as two additional elements. When we're focusing on air, that is really focusing on breathing. Water is emotions. Earth is groundedness. And fire is health and vitality, heat. If we add in consciousness, that is kind of like the awareness of being, because that's where we really kind of celebrate and honor the fact that the four elements come together to create and form you. And then space is spatial awareness. That's really where we start to think about and we focus upon this idea of seeing ourselves having a space in the universe. It's all our own. We were granted this space and we hold it, and that then we are connected to the next space and the next space and the next space. And even though we have this space, we realize that everybody else has the same personal space, and that it's all those spaces connected together that makes up this beautiful, big, infinite, cosmos. So that's what I love about elemental meditation, is that it's really about, mindfulness meditation is great. Transcendental meditation, I haven't figured that one out yet. But if you feel the need to travel and journey that far, in order to heal or to see, by all means, I think that that's a worthwhile endeavor. For me, where I am and where I like to lead people, and the journey that I like to take people on, is something that's a little more local. I enjoy mixing in spirit animals into my elemental meditation. As someone who's continuing to study the Celtic tradition, I do not ascribe to all of the gods. There's too many, and I feel that they're unnecessary. For myself, that's my personal. However, part of what's kind of started my studying kind of pre-Celtic Druidism is that, the Druids didn't have there were no gods in Druidism. There's just connection to the natural world. Not that they worshipped the natural world, they didn't worship nature, but they honored their connection to, the elements and to nature and their connectedness to everything. But yeah, so elemental meditation for me is just
That's beautiful, Robert. That's so beautiful. And this is again and for me, when it comes to grounding, and being more local and grounding ourselves, there is no better way than, like, the number one way is with the elements. The trees, getting our feet in the sand, taking off our shoes. It's the same vibration as Christ consciousness. That's the same exact vibration. If you're looking to get further, or get grounded by going further to coming back home, which sounds like an oxymoron, then that's the way to do it. But so many of us are kept, with our clothes on. We're in the car. We're going from one thing to the next thing, and we've suddenly programmed ourselves that there just isn't 5 minutes. We don't have 3 minutes. Take us, to just stop and listen to our breathing, or actually be exposed to the elements.
We live in LA. I don't know about you.
Oh, yes, let's preface that. I do. We live in LA.
Yeah, for the majority of my life, I'm in my car, right? And we spend a lot of time in traffic. And so we do have those few minutes, someone else who has a shorter commute, who's actually driving for 3 minutes, doesn't have the extra time. And I get that. But for us, we usually do have that kind of spare time in the car that we can take a moment to focus on our breathing, to feel the chair, the seat behind us, how it is an extension of the earth, and it cradles us and it supports us and it keeps us safe. And we can look out the window and see, clouds. We can see the blue sky that is reflecting the water. The clouds are made of water, that water is there, that the water stands for our emotions, and just like everything else, they ebb and flow, and we're trying to just find that place where we can have a placid surface, right? Heat. You feel the sun on your face coming through the windshield. You feel, you step out into the parking lot and you feel the heat. That's heat. That's vitality. We are not only do we give off heat, we create heat just by living, but we're basically solar cells, so that heat, we also absorb heat, and it helps to, increase our activity. So yeah, so it's really hard not to find a way or a place anywhere at any time to connect to nature.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You've just ripped away any limitation. Access is access. It's always accessible. The energy is accessible. Yeah. You simply have to just connect. And you can do it right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I am doing it right now.
Well, I'm feeling a lot more grounded right now. I must be picking up on your grounding energy.
I highly suggest you should always do interviews in your bare feet. It does. It helps to ground you, and you feel your feet flat on the floor. You can't feel like you're being blown away by anything.
That's right. Oh, no truer words spoken. Robert, can I ask you some questions as a beginner, as a novice, and maybe someone listening to this who doesn't understand what a spirit animal is, other than the way that, again, another term that kind of gets thrown around, like Debbie Gibson is my spirit animal, or Cher is my spirit animal.
Has someone actually said Debbie Gibson is my spirit animal?
Well, that was an example.
Okay.
Actually, probably my example. True. I tried to dismiss it.
She could be. I haven't thought about it. But sure.
Yeah, what is it? And the word totem and the word. I mean, where does
Yes.
this come from? And how can someone who wants to learn more and maybe has a desire to connect with their spirit animal more, do so?
I think if we start looking at spirit animals or talking about spirit animals and totems, um, we do have to kind of go back to indigenous tribes, and to kind of the first peoples, because in their stories of creation, as in the stories of creation from the Celts and the Druids, um, man is the baby on the planet, right? We got here last. So the fact that we have the ego to think that we're first is, our downfall. Um, because the plants come first, then animals, then us. Um, and so the thing is, that, ancestors looked at, the natural world, the animals around them, and saw that these animals had behaviors and personalities and seemed to represent aspects of their lives. And so it became it became a practice to kind of give those animals, or attribute certain representations to particular animals. And any animal can be it. I mean, Debbie Goodson could be a spirit animal if you figured out what she is, what she represents. Cher, I know what she represents, and I can 100% believe that she could be a spirit animal. Um, but um, but usually, like in the Celtic tradition, there are usually a handful, a dozen or so animals that are very commonly uh, seen as being available to lend guidance. Um, and so, within the Celtic tradition, there are 12 to 16 animals that just kind of like you kind of see them or feel or hear them mentioned as being spirit guides. Um, and so people do look to the wolf for kind of courage and order. They live in a pack, there's a hierarchy, they're very much about a structured lifestyle. Um, the blackbird is about magic and dreaming. So what do we see when we see, um, a flock of blackbirds and, the shapes that they form in the sky as they're flying away, or, swans are beauty and grace. What does the swan have to share with us? Or, the eel, which is not a beautiful creature. I mean, it is a beautiful creature, but, you know, um, but eels are very adaptable and are all about transitioning from, you know, um, from kind of seawater to non-salinated water to being able to crawl on the land. And so it's very much about, like, you can look to the eel for guidance about transition and adaptability. And so you can seek guidance from, and some people, have, like, they really feel a connection with one animal, and that is their spirit animal, and they seek no other guidance from any other source. Um, Totems kind of work the same way. And totems are usually figurines, or, I mean, we've all seen kind of totem poles, um, which are just ways of physical representations of the animals that we feel are giving us guidance, or who are telling a particular story at a particular time that we need to pay attention to.
So you're saying some people can have more than one spirit animal if they choose?
Sure. I mean, even if your spirit animal is the eagle, that does not mean that at some point, at a where you feel that you need to, you know, change your career or something, or you feel as if you've become stagnant here and you want to move into something else, that you can't honor the eagle and still seek guidance from the eagle, right? Or that, or if you feel that there's something that's not quite right at home with your family, that doesn't mean that you can't honor the eagle and still seek guidance from the hound.
Gosh, wow.
You
This is deep when we're using spirit animals as metaphors, and and the parts of ourselves that can be be seen, the traits of these animals that are really also in us too. And I've never, like, the eel, the electric eel, or I don't know why it has to be electric, but I don't think about the eel without the electricity and Ursula, but often neglected,
Mhm.
underappreciated. Well, Robert, you also found time in your busy schedule and in all that you do to create a deck.
I did. I did. Okay. Listen, you know what?
How?
Sometimes I just have ideas, Charles. I can't. Actually, no. I had just finished the master class in sound therapy, and I had kind of split up the master class into two different sessions rather than just going straight through. And in the middle, I had taken a class on Celtic spirit animals. And at that point, I'd already kind of really delved into this elemental meditation thing in the meditation leaders class, and I was feeling really connected to that, and I knew that's what felt right to me as far as where I should, put my heart, my energy. But then this idea of spirit animals and how, as being kind of representatives of the natural world, how they kind of dovetailed in with the elements. And so I set myself in a little rabbit hole and figured out how they work together, what kind of guidance they could really lend to people. And so I did. I created a deck called the Celtic Spirit Animal Meditation Deck because I couldn't think of a shorter name. And and basically what it is it's a deck of 20 cards. There are the 6 elements because I included consciousness and space, and then there are 14 spirit animal cards, like the most common Celtic spirit animals. And so basically the way that I've designed it to work is that you kind of separate the elements from the spirit animals, and you shuffle your element cards and you draw one element, and then you shuffle your spirit animal cards and you draw an animal. And you use that as a meditation prompt. So rather than doing a 45 or 60-minute meditation that is kind of incorporating all of the elements, you can just spend like 25, 30 minutes on one element. But while you're in that elemental zone, that you're allowing this message, that you're seeking this message from the spirit animal, you know, um, and what they say to you is most likely going to pertain to that element. So if if the element is fire, it usually relates to either sexual or intimate relationships, those people who are closest to you. um you know Earth usually has to do with things going on at work or at school. um Water are things that are kind of your emotional stability. um Air has to do with your future security. um Again, consciousness is really just about your health, your being. And space quite literally just comes down to how things are affecting your personal space in the universe.
Quite
Um,
literally.
yeah, and so again, the hound is represents home and family. The swan is grace and beauty. The eel is adaptability and transition. The stag is calm and dominion. the I mean, they're all different. They all represent things. So depending on what you draw, it really kind of, it helps to just guide your meditation. At least that's the way that I meant for them to be used, as a meditation prompt. However, I've had people email me and be like, okay, these cards, I've drawn these cards, and every day it's something that, like, how did it know? How did it know that that's what was on my mind? But again, I feel like, again, if you're really open and you're connected to the universe, and you're connected to the energy in the world, in the universe, that you are going to get the answers that you need, right? And no matter, and if that's what's on your mind, if that's what is kind of vibrating off of you and kind of rippling out into the universe, then of course it's going to show up in the cards.
Oh,
So
the universe responds, and sometimes over and over and over again until we until we receive the message.
I will say, I was, every day I try to do a draw, one element, one animal, and I posted on my Instagram just to kind of tell people about what it is. And
I love that.
okay, I had to take a break the one day because, because I've been trying. Usually you draw and it's kind of like, I don't want to necessarily show the eagle again, so you draw another card, to try to show all the cards. And one day the wolf was talking to me, like, I drew the animal card 5 times, and every time the wolf ended up in my hand, and I was like, okay, I need to deal with this, and Instagram can wait. But yeah, I mean, it happens, and and I did, like, after I kind of sat down and I kind of put myself to task, and then I realized, I was like, that is exactly what guidance I needed.
Oh, wow, Robert, that I love that. Like that anybody like can, if they're open and can follow the very detailed instructions that you've laid out, this deck can work for them. They don't have to have they're like psychic abilities required or any mediumship training or but tarot training.
No, I think as long as you can read, everything's there. It comes with a paper. There's some instructions on the front that kind of tell you how to separate the deck and to shuffle and all that stuff. And then on the back is a list of, it shows all of the animals, and it really it says what the animal represents. And then if the card, is this, per element, like if it's with this element, then the guidance might be something along the lines of this. And again, it's open to interpretation. Like if if you're, an old celibate hag like myself, the fire element obviously is not going to be about my sexual partners because I don't have any. But it does, again, that can be interpreted as your intimate relationship. So the people who are the closest to you, who know, the most about you. So sometimes you have to kind of interpret a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's deep work. It's look further. It's exploratory. It's go a little bit deeper, and that essentially is also the shadow work too. It's also diving in deep. Like, oh no, I'm all good in that area. Well, you might be, but there's still more things to uncover. There's still more to examine. Have you examined all of it?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when we limit ourselves to a 20-minute, meditation, and I know that there are those studies that are like, oh, if you meditate for just 15 minutes, you can't get anything in 15 minutes. I'm sorry. I mean, you might be able to like lower your blood pressure and like calm yourself a little bit, but you're not really going to get to where you're going in 15 minutes, right? And that could just be my LA attitude, because we can't get anywhere in an hour. So if I'm not getting anywhere in an hour, you're not getting anywhere in 15 minutes. That's just how this works. But I think that if you take the time, and I think that a lot of people, I don't know, we get caught up in this idea that we don't have time, that we don't have, that there isn't enough hours to get everything accomplished. But time is a human construct, so you have as much or as little time as you want.
Robert, I am receiving that. I am receiving that. Look, the message came through for me today. I needed to hear that. Somebody listening to this needs to hear that today. Well, I happen to know a way in which people can get more than 15 minutes, probably 20 minutes or more. And that is the Parapod Festival, where you will be leading an elemental meditation. Robert, I know you've been talking about it a lot.
It's okay. There's a lot to talk about.
So I'll ask you, I'm
okay.
another person asking you to talk about it.
All right. So this will take us back to the beginning of that crazy long introduction. So in my journeys and my travels, one of the things that I do is I work as a talent producer for a podcast company, specifically on a show called Truth Be Told, which is a paranormal podcast, top 5% in the world. And it's hosted by a guy named Tony Sweet, who's also the executive producer. And, Tony had this grand idea that he wanted to create a festival or an award show that would honor content creators who are working in the paranormal genre. Because, as you know, like even like the Emmys and, kind of the legit awards ceremonies, they kind of, they skip over the paranormal shows. I mean, there are tons of them. I mean, if you turn on the History or the Travel Channel or all this, I mean, ghost shows, Bigfoot shows, I mean, especially UFO shows, they're everywhere, but none of them are winning awards. But I mean, the people who are, investigating this stuff and who are uncovering the truth or trying to uncover the truth and who are presenting new evidence, and I mean, they're just as talented as investigative journalists as the people who are winning Emmys for the regional news. But we don't have any kind of accolades for content creators in this genre. So that was the impetus. I can say that somehow along the way, we became a little ambitious. And so Parapod grew from being some podcast awards to being a 2-day festival in Santa Clarita, California. So Friday, March 31st, we're going to an actual oil boom ghost town in Newhall, California, called Mentryville. We're going to spend the whole day there. During the day, myself and Sheena Metal, who is a radio host and a sensitive, we are going to lead kind of a ghost town investigation. So Sheena's going to have people in the first floor of the original Mentry Mansion, which is still standing. It's gorgeous. She's going to be there kind of taking people through and talking about what she feels from the site. And then in the schoolhouse, which again is still standing, and that's the first schoolhouse in the Santa Clarita Valley from the 1880s, I think, is we're going to have spirit boxes and EMF detectors and things, and we're just going to kind of give people an opportunity to pretend to be ghost hunters for the day. If they happen to come up with evidence, that's better, right? That's just the cherry on top. But we wanted to create an kind of a hands-on experience. And then at the same site, Mentryville, after dark, Ben Hansen, who was the host of Paranormal Files Fact or Faked, is going to be leading a stargazing or a kind of a UFO search in the skies above the Santa Monica Mountains. And then Patty Negri, who is the White Witch of Hollywood. She's the medium that we see on Ghost Adventures. She's going to take groups into the Mentry Mansion at night, in the dark, with no electricity, to really test everybody's mettle. And then on Saturday, starting at like 8 o'clock in the morning, we will be at the Hyatt Regency Valencia. We've taken over the entire conference center and their garden outside, and we'll be doing. It's a full day. So starting, I think it goes from 8 until 5 or 6 in the evening. We have 32 speakers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 different speaking venues. There's the garden outside we're using for like all the cool metaphysical stuff. So like vinyasa yoga, sound bath, uh, uh, Mystic Dylan, who is the kind of the witch uh, consultant on the Mayfair Witches on AMC. The Anne Rice witch show that's on. He's going to be doing a talk about magic and pop culture. We've got an author, a best-selling author, Tracy Blazer, who's going to talk about crystals. And then I'm going to lead a meditation in the garden. Meanwhile, inside, like they've got, every topic under the sun, like UFOs and disclosure, Bigfoot, um, how to kind of enhance your paranormal message with video, how to enhance your paranormal investigation by including a medium. And one of the great things, especially within the podcasting world, and it has a tendency to kind of stray the line between paranormal and just true crime. There are all of these shows that kind of, that are kind of true crime based that can get a little hinky. So we have 3 amazing podcasters who are all kind of on TikTok and social media with huge numbers, who are going to be talking about creating that kind of legacy on social media. And then at the end of the night, like Patty is going to do a live seance. Sheena Metal is hosting something called Scarioke, which is where we open the stage for people to tell their own ghost stories and UFO stories. And then at the very end of the night, we're doing the Parapod Awards. And so we're giving awards to paranormal filmmakers, paranormal podcasters. We did social media polls. So we've got, so we did like, favorite, UFO host or favorite favorite TV series with ghosts. And also Linda Moulton Howe, who was one of our keynote speakers. You know her from Ancient Aliens. We're giving her the Media Legend Award because the woman is an Emmy Award and Peabody Award winning investigative journalist who has spent 40 years of her life dedicated to UFOs, disclosure, animal mutilations. Like this woman, she's the real deal. She went into this genre not caring that mainstream media was going to laugh at her. Like she's really brought legitimacy to this. And then Billy Carson, who people know from Forbidden Knowledge, he is being given the Pioneer Award for his work as an author and as a producer, and what he does to try to really bring the paranormal into the mainstream. So yeah, so that in a nutshell is Parapod Festival.
Oh my gosh, it's filled to the brim, Robert.
We can't fit anything else. Yeah, we're literally we have packed as much as we can possibly pack into those 2 days.
Well, the beautiful thing is people will be left wanting more.
I hope so. That's the thing. At the end, what we really want is we want to make sure that the people who have purchased tickets, who are coming out, that they have just a brilliant experience, that they walk away feeling like they've really been part of something that was special and unique. So if we can manage that, we will have succeeded.
Well, Robert, I got to tell you, I feel like I was part of something special and unique just spending time with you today. Thank you for sharing your journey, sharing your knowledge, because I feel just by listening to you, this energy of journeying with you. I don't know if that's the Celtic shamanism. I don't know if that's just connecting to the getting back grounding, but we've been journeying together this time.
Well, I think that's for me was the important part. Part of this for me was that, for years I've been, I'll share with everyone else that I've been a makeup artist on films and TV series. And, and an injury has kind of taken me a little outside of that. We're still trying to figure out whether or not that's going to be able to continue. But my goal has always been what I love to do is working with actors and performers and using my skills to help them, or to kind of bolster their ability to service a story by getting into character, right? So in the past, it's hair and makeup or costumes. Now I've kind of turned this around so that, I can work with an actor to, again, journey to their character or clear out whatever else they may have brought in so that they can really allow themselves to be in a place where they can access the character. So that the journey aspect is really, really very important to me.
Mm. Well, Robert, how can people journey with you? How can they find you? How can they book a session with you? Where
Linktree, I am Robert Hensley.
Linktree, I am Robert Hensley. And that is the portal to all things Robert Hensley.
That is everything all at once. Do you have a Linktree? I am so into Linktree right now. It's like my favorite thing.
The message is clear right now. I literally was thinking I got to get on Linktree, and now you just said that. So,
and I've tried a couple of the other ones. There's the one company that they send you it's like a plastic business card, and like all of your information is on the card, so people just literally like scan your card, and then your information pops up.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is fantastic. Love that. But then Linktree doesn't require the card. You know what I mean? Like I can just kind of like put a link in an email and people would just go. So yeah, anyway,
Can people purchase your deck, your Celtic Spirit Animal Meditation deck?
Yes, if you go to the Linktree, I am Robert Hensley, you'll see that there's a link for meditation. I think it either says meditation or meditation deck, whatever. But yeah, just email me, let me know that you're interested if you have questions, and then and then I'll help you get it. I've got them.
And what's the link to the Parapod Festival for those interested in getting tickets?
If they're interested in getting tickets to Parapod, that is www.parapodfestival. That's PARAPOD festival.com. And general admission is $35 for Saturday. I think it's $25 for the day on Friday. However, I'll say that the best value for the weekend is the VIP pass, which is an all access pass for both days. It's only $175.
Oh my gosh, well worth it. Well worth it.
Yeah, well worth it. And then, if you've never been to Valencia, California, let me tell you that I've never been to a place with so much free parking. So like, I mean, it's just, this is important. I didn't realize that when you were planning events, that you have to think about parking. But it turns out that like there are a bunch of there are these great conferences and stuff that happen here in LA, but like people spend hundreds of dollars on the VIP pass, but then when they get there, they have to pay upwards of like $50 a day to park. So, so not only have you spent like $200 to get in, plus a hotel reservation if you decide to stay over, but then you're paying an extra $100 to park. And with us, like, it's just kind of like, come and, oh, look, there's a parking garage and it's free. And over there's a parking garage and it's free. And it's fantastic. There's no kind of hidden parkings like crap. I love it.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, it is a great value. And you, my friend Robert, are a great value to this world. Thank you for connecting us all to the elements today. And thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Charles. It was fun.